Joining me now is Virginia Congressman Rob Wittman. He's the Vice Chairman of the House Armed Services Committee and a member of the House China Select and Natural Resources Committee. Congressman, thanks very much for being here. Do you have a reaction to any of this? How is this explained? The Secret Service.
Listen, this is deeply disturbing, the failures, and these are multiple failures by the Secret Service in protecting the president. Their primary responsibility, listen, I am concerned about this, and I want to see not just what the deficiencies are, but I want to see a plan from the Secret Service about what they're going to do to address these deficiencies. I mean, this is critical to the very foundation of what we do in this nation, and that is we protect our presidents, and they have failed at doing that.
Why not? Why have they failed? Do you have any answers from the Secret Service?
Listen, I don't. I think that there's a failure of leadership there. There's a failure of making sure they're responsible for their duties to protect the president. It's pretty fundamental to me. You know, I want to see what is the plan going forward. How are they going to correct this? Not over months, but immediately. They have an immediate job to protect the president, and it's very clear that they failed in doing that.
Well, there's also breaking news on Israel this morning amidst this UN General Assembly meeting. Iranian President Pezeshkian criticized Israel yesterday at the United Nations General Assembly. Watch this.
The world has witnessed the true nature of the Israeli regime. It has witnessed how the regime carries out atrocities in Gaza and how in 11 months it has murdered in cold blood over 41,000 innocent people. They label the freedom-loving and brave people around the world who protest against their genocide as anti-Semitic. They label oppressed people who have stood up against 7 decades of occupation and humiliation as terrorists.
No word on the murder that Hamas caused on October 7th a year ago, and no pushback to this guy yesterday. President Biden barely mentioned Iran in his speech. Watch this.
The world must not flinch from the horrors of October 7th. Any country would have the right and responsibility to ensure that such an attack can never happen again. We must also address the rise of violence against innocent Palestinians on the West Bank and set the conditions for a better future, including a two-state solution where Israel enjoys security and peace and full recognition and normalized relations with all its neighbors. Progress toward peace will put us in a stronger position to deal with the ongoing threat posed by Iran.
And while President Biden has his talking points overnight, Israel intercepted a missile launched toward Tel Aviv, the first to get so close to the city, according to the Israeli defense fighters. Hezbollah says it was targeting Israel's intelligence service headquarters and firing 300 rockets yesterday at Israel. The IDF responded with extensive fire overnight and into this morning. It comes as more U.S. troops will be deployed to the Middle East as the violence intensifies. Roughly 40,000 American soldiers are already in the region, and now we are sending another 24 dozen. Congressman, your reaction?
Well, my reaction is the Iranian president says nothing about their efforts to support this destabilization in the Middle East. They're supporting the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas. All those things have led to the situation we find ourselves in now. Iran itself is not interested in peace in the Middle East. They are actually trying to hurt Israel, and they want to keep other Arab nations from joining Israel to try to create peace in the Middle East. It is very, very troubling that he won't even acknowledge what Iran has done, and it's troubling, too, that the president hasn't called out Iran more vigorously for what they have done in the Middle East and the things that they're doing to destabilize it.
The U.S. could have shown its support for Israel by denying a visa to the president of Iran, right? You have to come to New York to go to the UN General Assembly. Well, you can't. We can't give you a visa because of the atrocities that you have been supporting against Israel. Who made the decision to get this guy a visa to come to New York?
Listen, I think it was a mistake. You gave him a platform to be able to come in and blame Israel and not take responsibility for that. So that actually enables Iran. It enables Iran to get their message out there of misinformation about what the true source of this destabilization in the Middle East comes from. It comes from Iran.
Yeah, and I have to assume that it was the State Department who okays a visa for the president of Iran during all of these atrocities, right? Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. I assume that's who did it.
I assume that's the who did it, yes.
Well, the Ukraine-Russia war now entering a third year. President Zelensky pleading for more aid and permission to strike targets deeper into Russia, using weapons from the U.S. and allies. Watch this.
Putin has broken so many international norms and rules that he won't stop on his own. Russia can only be forced into peace. And that is exactly what's needed.
Now, Zelensky is set to meet with Biden and separately Vice President Kamala Harris this week. There were reports that he may also meet with former President Trump, but a Trump campaign official is saying that meeting will not happen. There are Republicans who are questioning the timing of Zelensky's trip and whether or not it's a ploy to help campaign for Harris, especially after his visit to a Pennsylvania ammunition plant alongside multiple Democrats, including Governor Josh Shapiro. They demand for an investigation, and they're also demanding that Zelensky may have they want to know if Zelensky flew into the state on a U.S. Air Force plane and was provided Secret Service protection, misusing taxpayer dollars. Congressman, do you know the answers to this? Why is Zelensky campaigning in America for Kamala Harris, which is what it appears to be?
Well, listen, I want to make sure we understand all the underlying factors about his trip here to the United States. He needs to meet with people on both sides of the aisle. Everybody wants to understand, what is Ukraine's plan going forward? How are they going to end this conflict? That's incredibly important for everybody. And I also want to, join my colleagues in saying we do need to understand what are the underpinnings behind his trip here to the United States.
A lot of questions here, Congressman.
Yes.
We'll be looking for answers here. Thanks very much for joining us, Rob Wittman.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Quick break, and the new polls show an increasingly tight race between President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris, including in major battleground states. Former presidential candidate and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy